Will AI improve our lives or exterminate the species? What would it take to abolish poverty? Are you eating enough fermented foods? These are some of the questions we've tackled recently on The Next Big Idea. I'm Rufus Griscom, and every week I sit down with the world's leading thinkers for in-depth conversations that will help you live, work, and play smarter. Follow The Next Big Idea wherever you get your podcasts.
Did you know that small and medium businesses make up 98% of the global economy, but most B2B marketers still treat them as a one-size-fits-all? LinkedIn's Meet the SMB report reveals why that's a missed opportunity and how you can reach these fast-moving decision makers effectively. Learn more at linkedin.com/meet-the-SMB.
Welcome to the American Negotiation Institute's podcast, where we will teach you the skills you need to get more out of life. And now your host, Kwame Christian.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Negotiate Anything. I'm Kwame Christian. I'm a business lawyer by trade, but my passion lies in teaching you the keys of persuasion and conflict resolution. My goal is to empower you to engage in these conversations confidently and effectively by not only sharing what works, but by also uncovering why these techniques work through revealing the psychological principles that lie behind persuasion. This podcast is brought to you by the American Negotiation Institute, where we offer customized conflict management and negotiation trainings for companies and one-on-one coaching for professionals who want to communicate more confidently and persuasively. Our guest today is Josh Elledge. Josh launched UpMyInfluence.com to help turn entrepreneurs into media celebrities, increasing their authority, influence, and revenue. He also started SavingsAngel.com, which has grossed more than $6 million in sales with less than $500 in advertising. Now, this is all very impressive, but it is not the reason why I invited Josh on the show. Josh is here to talk about how you can use negotiation to save big in your everyday life in general and to get travel discounts in particular. He even gives us a step-by-step approach that we can use when negotiating with hotels. I made a free guide for that, so if you're interested in getting that, go to AmericanNegotiationInstitute.com/guide, and you can download that free hotel negotiations guide. And I'm going to put a link in the description as well. This is a really fun episode, and I know you're going to get a lot out of it. So without further ado, let's jump into the interview. Josh, thanks for joining us today.
Kwame, it is my pleasure. I love what we're going to talk about today.
Me too. I'm excited. So how about you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and actually also how we met?
Well, podcast movement. So we're both podcasters and we love the medium. Just simply podcasting allows you to serve people. So my background is that Savings Angel is a company that I started getting close to 11 years ago. And it was originally designed to help consumers cut their grocery bill in half, and we've been very successful at doing that. Now, to grow any business, you need exposure, right? Exposure is everything in business. So with Savings Angel, I'll be honest, I didn't have any money for advertising. I was broke. I was bootstrapping this thing, but I did have a background in working in the media. So I was a journalist in the United States Navy for 5 years. So instead of traditional advertising, I just reached out to every radio station, every TV station, every newspaper, news magazine, anyone with an audience. And I just said, look, I'd love to advertise, but I don't really have that kind of budget. Is there any way that we could produce content together? And I'll make sure that it's exceptionally valuable. I have some experience with this. You can, go to my website and see me doing this or whatever. And they said, okay, he's pretty good. We'll try him out. And my first gig was with a local Christian broadcaster, a very small radio station. And I started getting a lot of members from that. That then led to being featured in our local newspaper. And then I became a writer for that newspaper and produced valuable content, just gave as much value as I possibly could. That then led to an invitation to become a syndicated newspaper columnist, started doing more and more TV. I've been on TV in the Orlando market over 600 times. Yeah, it adds up. So
wow.
And I've been doing this, for over 6 years now. So it definitely keeps you circulating. And so in terms of now with Savings Angel, we've been able to generate about $6 million in revenue, and I have spent less than $500 in advertising. That's all we do is PR, and if you want to call it that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And the thing that's really cool about it is that it's so organic because you vetted this by doing it for yourself, and then other people saw your competence and they're like, well, no, we need to get this guy on our team to help us out. As you can tell, audience, Josh is very giving. He is one of those guys where you start a conversation with him and then half hour later it's like, that was a free consultation. You just gave me so much information. Do I owe you something? And we started chatting about negotiation, and Josh loves negotiating. And I think that goes hand in hand with your company's Savings Angel. And Josh was telling me about some of the things that he's been able to negotiate. And I wanted to kind of take this episode back to one of the things I wanted to talk about more on the podcast, which is how you can use negotiation in your everyday life to save money and get what you want. So can you tell the audience a little bit about that?
Well, Kwame, I love getting a great deal. I love getting a hookup. I love getting free upgrades. I mean, it's just like, it's exhilarating for me. You know, one thing that I've learned is that everyone gets different experiences in life. And I think that it largely is a reflection of what you're putting out in the world. And so if you are a genuine, loving, giving person and you like people, then the world is going to reflect that back to you. But on the other hand, if you're just like a crabby person, you're just not going to get too many breaks because the world's going to keep on reflecting back to you. Okay, you're going to be, that's the way you're going to be. Well, this is what you're going to get. If you really want to change and you really want different outcomes, start giving what it is that you want to get. So let's talk about some very specific things on what you could do, because like I said, I get upgrades and discounts on almost everything. And the first thing you have to know is that you just simply have to be a nice person. So let's assume that you have that. If you're manipulating people, people will feel it, they'll smell it, they're not going to work with you. So let's just assume that you got that now. Secondly, is that you just have to ask. And sometimes the questions that you ask, you may feel like that's kind of audacious to ask a question like that. But if you give them the right reason and you say, look, it's totally fine one way or the other. If you can do it, great. If you can't, I totally understand. Like that softens that request, right? So it doesn't feel like you're being demanding, and it doesn't feel like that you expect people to just give you stuff, but that you're like, you know what? I just thought I'd ask. So let's apply this. And one of my favorite ways to get upgrades is hotels. Again, just stayed at a hotel. Everybody else in my conference was staying on the 4th and 5th floor, which you got a good view of the dumpster and the roof of the conference center, which is just a sea of just, white rooftop. And I was up on the 16th floor and had a little bit nicer room. But I've gotten some pretty crazy stuff. Like I have booked entry-level rooms for $60 and got upgraded to the $450 suite. That's really common. I almost always get free concierge. I always get like any perks that are available. I get those for free as well. So here's how I do it. What I want you to do is I want you to just get the absolute cheapest room available. And that is going to be through a third-party reseller like a Hotwire, Priceline, etc. The biggest thing is I want you to get the cheapest room at the nicest hotel that you can. That's kind of what I aim for, right? And so if you see that you got a 50% off rate through Hotwire, I kind of like those deals. Then you book the room, you get the hotel. Then what I want you to do is I want to make sure that you are a member of every single hotel's frequent stay program. That is mandatory because oftentimes that will give them the excuse to do what I'm about to tell you. Now, here's what you do. You, of course, have the program. You call the hotel and you say, I just booked the hotel room through a third-party vendor. Generally need to wait about 10 minutes because I find it takes about 10 minutes for the systems to update before they'll actually see you in their system. You say, look, I know it's through a third party, and so I won't get points for this night's stay, but I would like to have my account linked to my night's stay for incidentals or whatever. Okay, then they do that. Right? Be nice on the phone because you never know. Like someone might just by being nice on the phone might just give you a hookup right there and then there. So you might want to ask them about the property, smoking, non-smoking, make sure you're on a non-smoking floor, whatever, like requests. like make those known and just say, you know what, it didn't give me the option, but like I wanted one bed, but it looks like it only gave me option for two. If you happen to have a 1-bedroom, king bedroom or whatever, that would be awesome. So like that kind of stuff, usually they can hook you up with simple requests like that. But the real magic is going to happen when you show up in person. Here's exactly what I say. And there's 3 elements to this that you have to remember. So hopefully the person who's listening to this conversation, Kwame, I want you to write this down. You go in, you smile, you appear glad to be there. Like you're really grateful for your night's stay. And then you say, again, you have to give them a reason, an excuse, right? It's like that experiment of like when you ask someone if you can cut in line. And if you just say, hey, can I cut in line? Like most time people are going to say no. But if you say, can I cut in line because I have something cooking at home? Then people will be like, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. Then you say, I don't know if you have the power to do this, and I'm not sure what your occupancy rate is, but if you have any available upgrades, I would be so grateful. Okay, I'm going to say that again because it's really important you say it just like I said it. You say, I don't know if you have the power, and I don't know what your occupancy rate is, but if you have the ability to give any kind of an upgrade, I would be so grateful.
We are now offering conflict management and negotiation workshops for companies. If you like the content here and you think your team would benefit from getting a customized seminar, then all you need to do is email me or go to the American Negotiation Institute's website to learn more. And now, back to the show.
Small and medium businesses don't have time to waste, and neither do marketers trying to reach them. On LinkedIn, more SMB decision makers are actively looking for new solutions to help them grow, whether it's software or financial services. Our Meet the SMB report breaks down how these businesses buy and what really influences their choices. Learn more at linkedin.com/meet-the-SMB. That's linkedin.com/meet-the-SMB.
Couple of things what I just said there, okay? I don't know if you have the power. Okay, that right there that's the most important thing you say, because what that does now is it gets them to want to prove themselves to you. It's like they want to impress you, right? Everybody wants that. We work hard in our job and we want to feel like we're a little autonomous, like we can do stuff for people when it's the right thing to do. So you've just given them the perfect opportunity to do something good for somebody, right? Then you say, I don't know what your occupancy rate. So again, that first thing, by the way, really important because it really sets up a nice dynamic. Next is you say, I don't know what your occupancy rate is. So that's a term that most travelers don't necessarily use, but it's a term that when you work in the hospitality industry, like where you're at, your bookings are for that night, what your occupancy rate is. Then it's like, we like to give hookups to people who we feel are like us, right? They're not like, we don't like giving hookups to the man, but we like giving hookups to like our friends. And right. So when you say occupancy rate, it's like, oh, well, he's probably worked in hospitality. She's worked in hospitality. She's one of us. And so that's, again, you're giving them another reason why they should hook you up. And then of course, you kind of land it with, I would be so grateful. And you do the nonverbal. And Kwame, it works for me nearly 100% of the time. The only time it doesn't work is if they truly do not have any availability or they say, well, all our rooms are the same. But, that's the only time it doesn't work out. Other than that, if there's anything that they can give you, they're going to give it to you. So concierge is if I can get concierge, that's the number one upgrade I go for almost every time.
And can you explain what the concierge is?
Well, concierge, if it's a nicer hotel, it's going to give you a special lounge that you can go and they'll serve anything from appetizers to full meals and it's all included. So usually, like at a decent hotel, it's an extra $30 or so per night extra. I love concierge, especially if I'm at a conference and I'm going to be really busy, because I don't want to have to go and either just eat at Starbucks, or I don't want to have to go through the whole restaurant thing where you got to deal with the waiter or waitress, and then they're holding you hostage so before they can give you your bill. And it's too time consuming. So for me, and plus the concierge lounge gives you just a quieter place that you can kind of hang out and do your work. And if I'm at a conference, I'm busy. I am really, really busy. Also, a lot of times with concierge lounges, they allow you to bring a guest in with you. So it's a nice place that you could be like, oh yeah, I got concierge. Why don't we just go up to concierge lounge and we could talk about that? So that's the thing I will always suggest. Like I'll say, if you have any available upgrades like concierge or something like that, because of my schedule, I know I'm going to be so swamped with work. And usually that seems to be something that they can pretty easily work out for you. Because like if you complain about something, and it's legit, sometimes they'll give you free upgrades and stuff. I just like being the nice guy and, asking for upgrades that way.
Right. So in that situation, when you're making that ask, so you're friendly and then you say, I don't know if you have the power or
Yes.
what your occupancy rate is, blah, blah, blah. Do you ask them for the upgraded room and the concierge service at the same time?
At that point, it's just like, you're just open to whatever, and you want to play it humble at first, right? You don't want to say, I want you to give me a free upgrade. I want you to give me this. I want you to give me that and that. I'm real sensitive to laying out demands. I will generally suggest concierge because that for me personally is my biggest win. I would rather have that than an extra 100 feet of floor space in the room. But generally, I've had people give me lots of stuff. Like I said, they give me really nice suites and then I'll ask them, like if they say, well, I can move you up to the 16th floor, I will almost, if it's like, it's not that great, I will almost always ask them, oh, do you have concierge? Or I may ask them, I say, can you tell me about the room? Because I know I'm going to be on stage and I usually like to pace around a little bit in the room. Do you think there's enough floor space in the room that I'm going to be staying in? So you're asking without asking, I guess, and you're kind of justifying what they might be able to do.
Right. I love this. This is brilliant, Josh. This is
and
really
the
great.
thing is, again, Kwame, I want everyone to know this is not about manipulation in any way. I genuinely want to make sure that I am providing them value by expressing my gratitude. I will go out and I do this frequently. Where I will go and said, you know what, I'm going to run to the store. I'm going to come back with a big bag of M&Ms. I'm going to go, you want anything? I was going to run and you want coffee? I'm going to run to Starbucks. I try to find a way to reciprocate. And by the way, and I heard someone talk about this too. It's like if you're flying, go ahead and bring a sealed bag of M&Ms and share it with the airline stewardesses. Bring people gifts, give people stuff, and then don't even ask. And just see what happens. But generally, you're going to get treated pretty well, much better. The upgrade that you'll get will likely be worth more than the $4 bag of M&Ms.
Right.
And imagine doing this in business. I mean, again, look for your own parallels if you're talking about business negotiation or whatever, but play around with this a little bit and see if it helps you with certain elements of that process. I do this in sales. My philosophy to sales is being a go-giver. Bob Berg wrote a book on that, a couple books on that. You give value first, then maybe you suggest how we could work together and kind of take it to the next level. So that's what I do.
I love it. And the thing that's really cool about this is you say you try and give them something, even if you don't get the coffee or the M&Ms, the fact
Absolutely.
that you have given them attention and treated them like a human, that in itself triggers the norm of reciprocity.
Always use their name as well. Always.
Right. In one of my favorite books this year was written by Brené Brown on vulnerability, called Daring Greatly. And she talks about the importance of taking the time to acknowledge people and acknowledge their humanity.
Yes.
Because she said she always tries to go out of her way to make sure that she's not distracted when dealing with customer service representatives. And one time she was distracted because there was an unavoidable call that came up when she was in line for maybe fast food or something like that. She was able to end the call, and then she looked at the person in her eyes and said, I'm so sorry about that. I didn't mean to disrespect you in that way. And the person was almost brought to tears. And she's just like, people, they treat me like I don't even exist. And so the fact that my humanity has been recognized means a lot. And so it just goes to show how much something so small can mean. And like you said, for them, it's nothing to give you an upgrade when they have occupancy space, when they have space to give you those things. It doesn't cost them anything. It's like, you're a nice guy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Beautiful. And so this has been really helpful. And for the audience who's been trying to scramble and take notes, I'll give you a download. I'll mention this in the intro, the download that you can get to that kind of outlines these things. But Josh, before you go, can you give the audience one parting gift as a piece of advice that they can use to be more persuasive?
Yes, absolutely. So the fact that they're listening to this show, Kwame, this is going to be a no-brainer for you, but really surround yourself with the people that improve your level of association. I believe so heavily in the law of association. And if you want to know where you're going, just look at your friends, because that's where you'll be soon. So you can improve your association at any time by listening to shows like this. Don't just listen to this one episode, hit subscribe and listen to every episode and make it a part of your daily activity to surround yourself with people who are achieving what you want to achieve. That's just such a big thing. And if you have the budget, make investments. This was so difficult for me for so long because I'm all about getting the deal, but be willing to make investments in your team and make investments in improving the access that you have. Take advantage of stuff that people make available for free. I mean, you can go to upendpr.com, and if you click on become a member, just look for the link that says free membership, and you can have my $1,200 course for how to become a media celebrity. You can have it for free because, again, I'm very much of that mindset of being a go-giver. And so go take advantage of that. That definitely bring you value.
Yeah, and you could probably tell from this interview, Josh knows what he's talking about. So definitely take advantage of that if you're trying to get more PR. So Josh, thanks for coming on the show. This has been phenomenal. Thank you.
Kwame, it has been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you're finding this information helpful, please remember to leave a review and subscribe. Our goal is to teach this to as many people as possible, and every time you leave a review, it makes it easier for people to find us in the search engines. With your support and listenership, we've grown to the point where we are now the #1 ranked negotiation podcast, and we have listeners in 140 different countries. We appreciate your continued support, and please continue to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Remember, everybody who connects with me gets a personal message from me eventually. It takes time because more and more people have been reaching out, but I want to hear from you and we actually get to chat. So continue to reach out. Thanks again for listening. I'll catch you in the next one.